Hello everyone, this is part 47 of What If Naruto Meets the Nine Tails Early, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Awagakure no Sato, the village hidden in the rocks, the strongest of the 5 great nations, or at least they used to be until their encounter with the Yellow Flash of Konoha during the Third Shinobi World War. It was during this war that Namikaze Minato single-handedly wiped out a large portion of Iwa's army and sent the village into a long period of decline. Even to this day, the village was still suffering and it only got worse. They thought the threat of the Yellow Flash and Konoha's Namikaze family had passed. The space-time uses had plagued Iwa for too long, and they thought with the death of the Yondaime Hokage, the Namikaze were finally no more. That is, until 15 of their genin at the hands of a child who bore a shocking resemblance to the man all of Iwa loathed. Now, Iwa wanted B and they aimed to get it. Iwa had unleashed 4 of their most powerful warriors to track down and eliminate this new threat before it could manifest into something that would bite them in the hard. The first of the 4 was Okami Kenta, the Wolf Master of Iwa. Yes, this man was the father of Kucha, one of the 15 genin who fell before Team 7 during the second round of the Chunin exams. If there was anyone who wanted B, it was this man. The second was a man by the name of Urei Guru. This man belonged to one of Iwa's infamous clans who possessed an even more infamous bloodline that allowed this man to practically become a ghost at will, making he and his kin a foe to anyone without strong sensory abilities, as invisibility was one of the techniques associated with this bloodline. The third member of Iwa's famous Baku clan, bearers of the feared explosion release Kekkei Genkai. Baku Jin was his name. The last and final member of this team was one who didn't want to be near his 3 teammates at all. The only reason he had even agreed to come along was to gain his freedom from the village that had tormented and ostracized him for so long. The 4th member was none other than Han of the Steam Armor, Jinchuriki of the Gobi. These 4 had been sent to bring down the vengeance of Iwa. The target of Iwa's vengeance, one Uzumaki Namikaze Naruto. They had tracked the young Namikaze to the land of Snowvout offspring in the north, where they were able to gain a lead on his whereabouts, the land of Iron. By the time they arrived in the land of Iron, it was clear their target had already left, but the good news was that he was maybe only a day ahead of them at most. The bad news, he knew they were after him now. The fox hunt was on, figuratively speaking, and literally to some extent. As it was, both Naruto and Jiraiya had just crossed the southern border of the land of Iron and were now speeding through the land of stars. It had been almost a day since they left Sangaku, and Naruto had already received the memories from the first of his shadow clones, indicating that Iwa was now hot on their trail. As more clones dispelled, it was clear that Iwa was gaining ground on them. Damn, at this rate they'll catch us. I had been hoping to put some ground between us and them to give ample time to prepare, but sadly that's not appearing to be the case. The Iwa ninja were traveling much faster than Jiraiya had expected, almost as if they had 5 tails worth of horsepower propelling them forth. Foxes might be quick and agile, especially in close quarters, but in a flat-out land race, the horse was far superior. Jiraiya knew they weren't going to escape their pursuers, especially not with the Okami clan tracking them. The Okami clan of Iwa was the only clan who rivaled the Inazukis in tracking throughout the elemental nations, and at the rate with which they were catching up, there was no way they'd be able to outmaneuver their pursuers. Jiraiya's best bet now was to find a suitable place and use whatever remaining time they had to prepare for the oncoming attack. He figured that he could probably take on the 3 Anbu, but by adding Han into the equation, that added a whole nother element into the mix. Rumors out of Iwa were that Han had gained complete control over the Gobi, making him the 3rd known true Jinchuriki behind both KB and Yugito of Kumo. If that truly was the case, then Jiraiya couldn't afford to hold back against Han. A true Jinchuriki such as Han would require everything Jiraiya had, and even then there was still one other problem. If he was their target, things would be different, but their target was Naruto and he had to fight to protect the blonde. While he could fight them, he wasn't entirely confident in his ability to keep them all at bay and away from Naruto. Naruto would most likely be required to fight as well, and given who Iwa had sent, brought a difficult decision upon Jiraiya. Jiraiya eventually realized that it was probably about time to pop Naruto's seal, giving the blonde the power he would need to defend himself against the best Iwa could throw at him, such as a fully transformed Han if it came to that. Even if Han didn't go Biju mode, Iwa was now on the move against Naruto and the blonde Jinchuriki would need all the help he could get. Despite the contract and all the help the Kyuubi had been offering Naruto, Jiraiya still didn't fully trust the Kyuubi, but as the clone that was only 12 hours behind them suddenly popped, and Jiraiya was now left with no other option. If the Toad Sennin waited much longer, not only would he not have enough time to release Naruto's seal, but also gather enough natural chakra to summon the two honored Toad Sages to help him out. He also had to get somewhere where a large-scale battle could take place without too many disruptions. As some more time passed, the Konoha duo eventually came into a large uninhabited valley and Naruto's next clone popped, indicating that they only had a few hours at most before the Iwa team arrived. Ero Sennin, why did we stop? Asked Naruto. Because kid, I don't think running's going to get us anywhere now, replied Jiraiya. But what you said back in the Land of Iron 2 days ago, you didn't think you could take them, said a concerned Naruto. I could take them, but I'm not sure I could while protecting you at the same time, said Jiraiya. I can't think of any more options Naruto. I could try to reverse summon you back to Mount Myoboku, but I need to get permission from the Toads first and the rate at which they get stuff like that done makes even Tsunadheim look like a professional at doing paperwork. So what are we going to do? Asked Naruto. We're going to have to fight, said Jiraiya. And there's only one thing I can think of right now that'll help you survive should it happen that I can't manage to keep all four of them away from you. What do you mean? Summoning jutsu, shouted Jiraiya as he s his hand into the ground and a familiar scroll-like toad appeared. What's up Jiraiya? Asked Geratora. Naruto and I have found ourselves in a tight mess that requires drastic measures, said Jiraiya. And by drastic measures, you mean, replied Geratora. Yeah, I need you to give him the key to his seal, said Jiraiya. Naruto's eyes immediately shot open upon hearing this and he wasn't the only one in shock at Jiraiya's statement. Kurama was currently checking his hearing, or the connection he had with Naruto's senses. Did he hear right? Was the seal going to be released? You're joking, right? Asked Geratora. I'm afraid not, said Jiraiya. A few moments of silence between Jiraiya and Geratora ensued before the toad burst out shouting. Are you crazy? This is removing any restriction on the Kyuubi of all things here. I know, but we need his power right now, said Jiraiya. Just what sort of situation have you gotten yourself into this time? Don't tell me you're going to use the Kyuubi to protect yourself from being beaten every time you get caught peeping, asked Geratora. It's nothing like that. Look, Iwa found out about Naruto's heritage and they've sent people after him. If we don't do this now, we're screwed, said Jiraiya. You're telling me you, the great Toad Sage, can't handle a couple of lousy Iwa ninja? Asked Geratora. They sent Han, said Jiraiya, instantly shutting Geratora up. As in Han of the steam armor. Jiraiya nodded. I see, you really are in a bundle then, said Geratora. Wait, couldn't you just reverse summon Naruto back to Mount Myoboku? I've already thought about that and you know how fast the great Toad Sage moves on stuff like that, said Jiraiya. Yeah, I suppose that option's out then, replied Geratora. Besides, if we don't do anything about them now, they're just going to keep coming after us and that means Konoha might even have to deal with another Biju attack if they decide to use Han to attack Konoha directly, said Jiraiya. Hold on, I thought Han hated Iwa. Why's he helping him out? Asked Geratora. I don't know. Perhaps the Tsuchikage struck a deal to allow him to leave or something, replied Jiraiya. Look, I wouldn't be asking this if I didn't have any other option. I see. Very well then, replied Geratora as he unfurled himself, revealing the key to Naruto's seal. Naruto, what you do now with the seal is up to you. I trust you to make the right decision with it, whether you feel that is releasing the seal or not. But I just want to make one thing clear between the Kyuubi and myself, said Jiraiya. If he so much as thinks of harming you or any of Konoha, I will seal him away for eternity in a seal that makes even your mother's seal look like a 5-star resort. Upon hearing that, Kurama cringed at the mentioning of Kushina's seal. Those were by far the worst couple of years of his entire life. Spikes were driven through his tails and limbs and he even had a large spike through his sea. And then there were chains that were so tight that they actually dug into him every time he even tried to breathe. The worst part of it, however, was the isolation. Unlike Naruto's seal, Kushina's was, for the most part, separate from hers consciousness. Even he liked to have some interaction with his tenant and the outside world, which Naruto had been gracious enough to allow after they first met. He could have only come to Kurama whenever he needed chakra and stop it there, but the blonde kept the mental link open and didn't try to block out the link between their senses, except for those times when he teased his blonde vessel while on a date with Hinata, but that was different. He understands Ero Sennin, and so do I, said Naruto. Don't worry, I won't disappoint you or anyone. Okay, I trust you, Naruto, said Jiraiya as he motioned to Geratora. Now, just channel some chakra into the seal on me, instructed Geratora as Naruto did what he was told. As he did that, the sealing matrix for the key appeared on his right arm. Well, I guess that's it. Looks like I'll be going into storage then. Storage? Asked Naruto. Geratora nodded. Yep. Now just open wide and say, ah. For some bizarre reason, Naruto did as the toad asked, and the next moment, he found himself with a toad jammed down his tea and Kurama bursting out in tears and laughter at the scene. A few moments of choking later, and Naruto was making sure to take frog legs off of his things to try list. You okay? Asked Jiraiya. Yeah, just promise me I'm never going to have to swallow a whole toad again, replied Naruto. I'm going to go on ahead a little, see if I can set some traps and prepare for when they come, said Jiraiya. You do understand what's at stake here. If given the chance, those guys will KO you. I'm going to go prepare, I suggest you do the same. With that, Jiraiya left to go prepare himself for what was likely going to be his most difficult battle since when he failed to stop Orochimaru from leaving. He knew what the upcoming battle involved. He would need to keep Han and his 3 companions at bay best he could, but even then he was afraid one of them would slip through and get to Naruto. Naruto sat down to reflect what it was that Jiraiya had exactly done. Jiraiya had just given him the key to completely open his and Kurama's seal without any sort of worry of a failsafe activating. The only question that remained is would he? It was clear that Ero Sennin still didn't quite trust the Kyuubi, but Naruto was a different story. He may seem like a trusting individual, but in reality there were very few people Naruto truly trusted, thanks to all the times he had been betrayed and tormented as a child. Iruka-sensei, the Ichirakus, Ero Sennin, and Barkan were probably the most obvious on that list. After that nearly disastrous birthday, Hinata-chan found herself on that exclusive list. She had never been mean at all to him, and it was that trust that he had in her that ultimately led to their relationship forming. Following the Chunin exams in Kumo, his own team made their way onto that list, showing him that they wouldn't abandon him regardless of the danger, and the fact that he trusted them was shown by the revealing of his largest secrets to them. And then there was one more. Ever since their first meeting in the Land of Waves, Kurama had, for the most part, been nothing but helpful to Naruto. If it wasn't for Kurama, he and his teammates probably wouldn't have survived against Orochimaru or Gaara in the first Chunin exams. And then there was the time when they encountered the Sound 4 and Sasuke was nearly KO. Naruto knew how much Kurama hated the Sharingan and the Uchiha, due to this entire mess he was in being the result of a certain Uchiha's actions. Kurama could have just let Sasuke be out, yet he decided to give Naruto the necessary power to save his friend. And then there was the Chunin exam in Kumo. Had it not have been for the giant furball, he would not have survived against the Rokubi Jinchuriki, and neither would Tenten, Ino, nor Chuji. Hell, Naruto had even accepted the fact that Kurama had a hand out of paw in getting he and Hinata together. The only thing that Kurama did do to Naruto that shook their trust was not tell the blonde about his mother or the fact that his mother was his previous Jinchuriki, yet they had plenty of time to talk that over and work things out. Most people saw Kurama as a demonic Ani filled with hate and rage, however Naruto saw something much different. Kurama never wanted to attack the village in the first place, and Naruto could easily tell that was the one thing he regretted the most, allowing himself to be controlled like he did. For some reason, Kurama had been the one to come forth and make the deal with Naruto. It had started off as a selfish bargain, Naruto accepting because of the promise of gaining power to become Hokage and Kurama accepting because of the prospect of freedom, but it quickly evolved into something much more. To best explain it, Naruto and Kurama had practically become brothers in a sense. They had their fun, their arguments, they teased one another, but they had each other's backs when it came down to it. In truth, there really was no choice for Naruto to make, and he could also tell that Ero Sennin knew this as well. The Toad Sage was just trying to satisfy any doubts he may still have before the moment came. Naruto sat down and meditated, as he ventured into his subconsciousness. Naruto's mindscape. Well, I see that pervert's finally given you the key, said Kurama. Naruto held out his right hand and the seal matrix of the key appeared. Even to Naruto, it was a truly complex sealing matrix, and if the key was that complex, he could only imagine what the seal itself was like. The seal that his dad designed really must have been something. So what are you going to do? You going to keep me locked up in here any longer, or are you going to give me a bit more room to move? You already know what I'm going to do. Regardless of what everyone initially thought, you've never been some demon fox in my eyes. You've always been my comrade, and even more than that, you've kind of been like a brother to me, replied Naruto. You and I've been through much together, so if you're ready, move forward. I'm ready to pop that damn seal off. Hey, you certainly are an interesting one, Uzumaki Naruto. You always have been. You've shown countless times that no matter what's thrown at you, you'll find a way to persevere. Yet I know that the challenges you have yet to face are going to be more difficult than anything you've ever faced, replied Kurama as he lifted his hand out of paw and stuck it through the bars and balled it into a fist before Naruto. I'm ready, let's show these Iwa bastards just who exactly they're messing with, and perhaps I can have some fun with Kokuo again. He always was a fun one to fight. Naruto grinned at this and bumped fists with Kurama, showing the bond that had developed between the two. Following that, Kurama opened up his hand, which Naruto stepped on as the blonde was lifted up to the tag on the gate that read, seal. With the key activated, he reached out to grab hold of an L off the tag that had been holding Kurama's gate closed. However, before he could manage to do such, he felt something grab onto his wrist and pull him away into the floor of the seal. It can't be. As Naruto opened his eyes to see what, or who had just pulled him away from the seal, his eyes widened in shock upon seeing the man wearing a long white cloak with blonde spiky hair just like his. Naruto knew this man, if only from pictures and from what he had been told by Kakashi-sensei and Ero Sennin. The man standing in front of him was Dad, Yondaime. I've been wondering why I'd appear here, spoke the Yondaime. What? But how? Gasped Naruto. It was one last failsafe worked into the seal. I sealed some of my own chakra into the seal so I'd appear if the seal was ever about to be broken or release. What would happen when I showed up would depend on the circumstances, explained Minato. And give me at least one chance to meet my son. 2-chan. I see you know who I am. I'm glad that someone told you. I was afraid I was going to show up and you'd have no clue who I was, said the Yondaime. However, the face of Namikaze Minato sullied a little. By having been sealed inside his son who kept the seal open to his memories, Minato knew some of the pain and loneliness that his son had gone through. Naruto, I'm. Minato was see off as Naruto's fist s into his father's stomach and Kurama did everything in his power to hold back the laughter. Why the F did you have to seal the QB inside me? Do you know what sort of hell I've been through because of that? Shouted Naruto before he started to cry. Naruto, I know I've caused you a lot of pain. I honestly wish I could have been a better father, but all I can do now is apologize, said Minato. No, it's okay. I was told why you did it and I don't blame you. In all honesty, I'm kind of glad you did, said Naruto, earning a curious look from his father. In all honesty, being a Jinchuriki isn't all that bad. If it wasn't for that, I don't think I ever would have gotten the chance to form the bonds I did. Ero Sennin, Barkan, Iruka-sensei, all of my friends, Hinata-chan. Hold on a moment, wasn't Hinata what Hiashi was going to name his first daughter? Asked Minato with a gleam in his eye. This isn't the same Hinata I'm thinking about, is it? Someday he and that vixen are going to have little kitlings together. Kurama's comment caused a red blush to creep onto Naruto's face and Minato couldn't help but laughing. Hey, there's nothing wrong with Hinata-chan. She's nice, pretty, smart. Don't forget has a nice body that's going to be S as hell one day. Don't you even start, you Ero Kitsune. Retorted Naruto, however he wasn't denying any of Kurama's comments. It had started off as small remarks, but ever since the trip with Jiraiya started, Kurama had been acting a bit more perverted. Naruto was becoming convinced he and Ero Sennin were somehow in cahoots with one another. And what are you laughing at? Oh, it's nothing. I just remembered a few jokes Hiashi and I made about our children ever getting together. I can't believe it actually happened, laughed Minato. A few more seconds and the laughter stopped. So why exactly are you here? You mentioned something to do with the seal, asked Naruto. Yes, as I said, I sealed away a small portion of my chakra into your seal before completing the seal so that I would appear if your seal was ever about to be released or broken. You see, I knew that the Kyuubi was being controlled when he attacked Konoha 14 years ago, so when I placed the seal on you, I also gave the Kyuubi one chance, explained Minato. Chance? Asked Kurama. What are you getting at, Yondaime? You see, I knew my son would need your powers someday, when he was confronted by a foe that no one who didn't have a unique set of abilities could face him, said Minato. Immediately, Kurama knew who he was talking about. Yes, it's the masked man who was the one behind the attack. He's no ordinary man, and I couldn't even defeat him, only force him to retreat. So what's this have to do with the seal and this chance you're talking about? Ah yes, you see, the moment I appear, which happens to be now, a decision was to be made regarding your fate. As I said, I knew you weren't mindlessly attacking my village, so I gave you a chance. I gave you the chance to help my son. If you did so, then I have a seal set up somewhere in the land of ages where you will be resurrected only a few days after Naruto's, and it had better be as an old man, so that you don't get resealed and have a chance to live free again. Though, I cannot guarantee whatever fate befalls you after that, explained Minato. However, if you tried to force your way out of the seal, then the seal itself would effectively sap you of all of your chakra, giving it to Naruto to use while you just withered away within the seal until the rest of your being was claimed by the Shinigami himself. And that decision? Asked Naruto, desperately hoping things wouldn't go terribly bad for Kurama. It was made the day the two of you agreed to that contract. Minato was off. Wait, so does that mean you made the contract? Asked Kurama. I did, and so long as you honor your end of the agreement, I have seen to it that you'll be set free in time, said Minato. Naruto could only help but stare in awe at his dad's work. This seal was more impressive than Naruto had initially thought if it was capable of doing something like Minato had just described. I'll disable the failsafe, but you're going to have to wait a little longer, Kyuubi. My chakra's limited and I want to use the remaining time I have left to get to know my son, if only a little. With a snap of his finger, the sealing tag on the cage burst into flames, revealing the spiraled locking mechanism of the cage underneath. You do realize we don't have a lot of time. I do. Another thing I can only apologize for. I had wished that Iwa would have waited longer, but it appears as if their hatred is stronger than I had originally thought, said Minato. Still, this is the only chance I have, and before we leave, and there is one person I want to introduce to you, son. Someone who I think you've been asked to meet for years. Huh? Asked Naruto. With that, Minato snapped his fingers and Naruto's mindscape immediately changed from the flame-lit chamber where Naruto was originally into a sort of white space. Where are we? Naruto. Naruto's eyes snapped open and tears came to his eyes as he eyed the beautiful red-headed woman standing in front of him. It can't be. Naruto, I'd like for you to meet. Minato didn't have time to finish as Naruto ran forward and wrapped the woman standing in front of him in a big hug. Ka-chan. Well, at least he didn't punch you in the gut, said Minato. I've always wanted to see you, Tobio, declared Naruto. Tobio. Oh dear, you did take after me then, sighed Kushina. There's so many things that I've always wanted to ask the two of you, said Naruto, enthusiastically. Well, seeing as I don't need to use any chakra to rebuild the seal, we've got more time to get to know our son, said Minato. Naruto was in deep thought, earning a curious look from both of his parents. Yep, I do wish I would have gotten your hair. Minato faltered at this and Kushina could only help but laugh. What's wrong with my hair? Asked Minato. Well, for one it's impossible to straighten out or comb, argued Kushina before turning back to Naruto. You know, you're the second one to compliment my hair. Huh, really? Who was the first? Asked Naruto. Kushina just pointed to Naruto's other side, where Minato had taken a seat next to Naruto, as did Kushina. You know, there's something I've always wanted to ask you too if I ever got the chance. How did you and Dad fall in love? What? It's kind of embarrassing, Tobane, said Kushina. Tobane asked Naruto before breaking out into laughter. Oh, just tell him, honey, it's not that embarrassing, replied Minato. Well, I guess, said Kushina. Jiraiya had just finished tagging the entrance area to the valley he and Naruto had stationed themselves in before falling back. Those traps would buy them some more time and hopefully injure them if only slightly. Currently, the Toad Sennin was sitting on top of a rock perfectly still with his hands together, as he gathered enough natural energy to summon the two great Toad Sages to assist him. Jiraiya cracked his eyes, if only slightly, as a sound rang from in front of him. His traps were being sprung and the enemy would be here momentarily. Slowly, a thick veil of fog, or in this case steam, rolled over the clearing where Jiraiya was sitting, and before anyone could see what had happening, a powerful fist s itself down upon Jiraiya, causing the earth to buckle beneath him. The strength of the hit was almost soon at level, and the attacker, wearing red armor with steam emitting from the junctions in the armor, smiled. He had just gotten the legendary Jiraiya of the Sannin with one blow, or so he thought. Fuinjutsu, ensnaring seal. The ground beneath the attacker glowed and black sealing chains erupted from the seal that had formed beneath the red giant's feet, ensnaring Han of the steam armor in his tracks. Really, lad, I don't know why you even needed to summon us here. I was in the middle of cooking dinner, bickered Shima, now sitting upon a sage mode Jiraiya's shoulder. Jiraiya wasn't in the location he should have been, but was now standing upon a tree overlooking the clearing Han was now trapped in. Don't underestimate him, Ma. Han of the steam armor is one of the most powerful shinobi from Iwa, said Fukasaku. Although she is right, you really should learn how to enter sage mode on your own, Jiraiya-chan. But why is he after you? Asked Shima. It's not me who's their target, it's Naruto, replied Jiraiya. You mean your student and Minato's boy? Asked Fukasaku. Jiraiya merely nodded. I see. But I still don't see why we're needed here. I was in the middle of backing a casserole and now it's going to get burnt, replied Shima. Now's not the time you should be worrying about your grasshopper casserole, Ma, argued Fukasaku. He's right. Iwa's sent 4 of their strongest after Naruto, and if we're not careful, they could actually get to him, said Jiraiya as he looked down to Han, who was just standing there, looking up at the Toad Sennin calmly. Besides, rumor has it that Han has recently succeeded in gaining control over the Gobi. I see, so he's the Gobi Jinchuriki, said Fukasaku. Yeah, and it doesn't help that. Jiraiya was interrupted as he ducked just in time to miss the S of a blade that came out of nowhere. As Jiraiya turned around to see who had just attacked him, he couldn't see anyone, but his enhanced sensory abilities from Sage Mode were telling him otherwise. Jiraiya jumped back just to avoid another knife strike that would have more than likely given him 2 hearts. Who's there, Jiraiya-chan? Asked Fukasaku. If I'm correct, his name is Yuri Guru, said Jiraiya. The ghost blade of Iwa. As Jiraiya landed, he was hit in the back by a fist, followed by a subsequent explosion. But Jiraiya puffed away just as the explosion went off and a log was shattered into thousands of splinters. Elsewhere in the forest, Jiraiya hopped down from a tree following his substitution. Yuri Guru and Baku Jin, said Fukasaku. Iwa's really pulling out all the stops if they sent those 2 along with Han. Both Guru and Jin were high A-ranked shinobi out of Iwa, on the verge of S rank. Han was already low S rank, but if he had control over the Gobi, that would most certainly not help the situation. Summoning Jutsu, Wolf's Den. Before Jiraiya could react, he and the 2 Toad Sages were surrounded by nearly a dozen enormous wolves. Welcome to my den, Jiraiya of the Sannin. Here, I'm the Alpha and you're nothing more than an afternoon snack to my pets. Okami Kenta as well. Certainly is an interesting combination Iwa sent, muttered Fukasaku. With a quick flash of his hands, the wolves all pounced Jiraiya, causing the Toad Sage to jump away and retreat as the wolves quickly followed suit. The Wolf Master smiled as he actually had the legendary Jiraiya on the run, or so he thought. A frantic Jiraiya came to a stop as he hit AS end in the small canyon in which he was chased into. Well, had I known the great Jiraiya could have been beaten this easily, I would have had Tsuchikage-sama send in a team after you earlier, smirked Kenta from atop one of his wolves. Now, an experienced ninja such as Kenta should have known that nothing is as it seems when it comes to ninja. However, the entire hunt that had taken place over the past few hours had the Wolf Master seeing red and only seeing an easy K. That mistake would prove to be fatal. Senpo, Gomen. Kenta's eyes only had time to widen before he and his pack were from behind by a massive wave of supercharged, boiling oil. Jiraiya got hit with the jutsu, but disappeared as he had only been a shadow clone. The wolf pack had tried to run away in time to get away from Jiraiya's jutsu, but there was no escape, seeing as they had trapped themselves, and the wolf master of Iwa soon found himself facing the same fate his own son had faced about 2 years ago. Well, one down, but he never really was the one I was worried about, said Jiraiya as he looked through a gap in the trees to see Han, who was still just standing there in Jiraiya's seal. That was what troubled Jiraiya the most, the fact that Han wasn't struggling to break free. Jiraiya's attention snapped back to the current situation at hand as he just barely dodged a fatal blow from a knife. Still, it was enough to leave a good-sized C along the back of his shoulder. Damn, Yurei and Baku are the ones I need to watch out for. If I can't do something about them, I don't think I'll get a good shot at Han. Jumping around like this swinging at nothing ain't gonna get us nowhere, said Shima. Don't strain yourself, Ma, you'll just give yourself more wrinkles, commented Fukasaku. Shut up, Pa, I know what I'm doing, argued Shima as her tongue emerged from her mouth and began sniffing around before it locked onto Yurei's location. With blazing speed, the tongue wrapped itself around Yurei's body and sprayed some sort of liquid over the Iwa shinobi. What the F is this stuff? Swore Yurei as he found himself unable to go invisible again. I got him, said Pa as he shot a highly compressed jet of water towards Yurei. The Iwa ghost just smirked and the water passed directly through him and he slipped out of Shima's binding. This guy certainly is troubling. Okay, I think I'm starting to figure this guy out a little, thanks to what my spy network was able to get me regarding the Yurei clan. The two main abilities of their bloodline are invisibility and intangibility. Ma was able to catch him while he was invisible, which means he wasn't intangible then. That probably means he can't do intangible and invisible at the same time, analyzed Jiraiya as he tried to figure out Iwa's famed ghost body bloodline. Likewise, if I can't attack him while he's intangible, that means he shouldn't be able to attack me, making it so that he has to become tangible again in order to attack. The only question is how long does it take in between switching tangibility? Jiraiya was forced to see his train of thought as the ground beneath him shuttered and erupted in a massive explosion, uprooting the earth around Jiraiya and forcing him into the air. He saw Baku jumping towards him and Fukasaku shot out his own tongue, grabbing hold of a tree just as Baku swung his fist, missing Jiraiya. I say we fight firepower with a little firepower. A senjutsu-enhanced exploding clone should do the trick, thought Jiraiya as he made what appeared to be a normal shadow clone and sent it towards Baku. You think a measly clone can withstand my explosive fists? Scoffed Baku, feeling almost insulted. He took the bait. Bakuten, landmine fist. The explosive fist connected with Jiraiya's clone and an even larger explosion erupted. The landmine fist was designed to direct the explosion away from the user, minimizing any potential recoil. However, the power of Jiraiya's senjutsu-enhanced exploding clone was enough to overpower the momentum of Baku's blast and hit him with a good portion of recoil, sending the explosion user sailing back into the trunk of a rather large tree. Now then, all that's left is you, said Jiraiya, turning to Yurei. Damn it, with this stuff still on me, I can't go invisible. At least I can still go intangible. If he can't beat me, then he can't get to stopping Han from the last of the Namikaze plague, thought Yurei. Yurei ran towards Jiraiya and Jiraiya prepared to counter Yurei's attack, hoping to be able to take advantage of when Yurei struck. However, Yurei didn't strike out at Jiraiya, he simply went straight through the Toad Sennin, sending a disturbed chill down Jiraiya's back. As soon as Yurei had completely passed through Jiraiya, he gave the Toad Sage a good fast kick in the back, sending Jiraiya stumbling forward. Yurei saw this opening that had been created and proceeded to run Jiraiya through with his blade. However, a grin appeared on Jiraiya's face as he disappeared in a puff of smoke, being replaced by a tagged log. Senpo, demonic binding seal, called out Jiraiya as the seal he had on the log lit up and ensnaring seal sealing chains wrapped themselves around Yurei. You're not getting out of that anytime soon. I suggest you just relax until I get back, said Jiraiya. Oh yeah. Yurei laughed out. You think this can hold me? The ghost tried to go intangible but was stopped the moment a shocking jolt of energy was sent through his system from the seal, preventing him from activating his bloodline. Are you sure you needed us, Jiraiya-chan? It seems like you could have taken those 3 by yourselves, commented Fukasaku. You're probably right about that, Pa. But it's Han I'm going to need the help with, said Jiraiya as he approached the clearing where Han was still ensnared by Jiraiya's initial seal. As he reached the clearing, Jiraiya began charging up a sage-powered, oversized Rasengan before running at Han before the giant of a Jinchuriki could make a move. I'm sorry, but I won't let you or your comrades hurt Naruto, said Jiraiya as he thrust the oversized spiraling sphere into Han. Senpo, Ultra Big Ball Rasengan. However, even Jiraiya didn't think it would have been that easy as Han simply exploded into a cloud of steam, indicating that the person Jiraiya had captured at the beginning was a steam clone. The steam clone had exploded upon impact, covering the entire area in steam and clouding Jiraiya's vision. Oh, this steam will do wonders for your wrinkles, Ma, said Fukasaku. Jiraiya wasn't having any of the old toads bickering as he was now in the middle of a gigantic steam cloud with no idea where exactly Han was. His answer, though, came to him when he felt a strong kick strike him upside the back and send him flying. The steam that was backing the kick also served to cause a nice burn on his mid-back. Had it not have been for the increased durability he gained in Sage mode, that kick of Han's would have done more damage. Just as Jiraiya had recovered, he was locked into a taijutsu spar with the gigantic Jinchuriki. You know, I should be thanking you for ridding me of those bastards I've been stuck with for the past year, said Han. But sadly, I've got a mission to complete, one that will get me out of that hellhole for good. Jiraiya figured that with Han being a Jinchuriki and his attitude towards Iwa and his comrades, the armor-clad giant probably wasn't treated the best in Iwa. Jiraiya took a few steps back and Han charged again. Immediately, Pa shot a pressurized water jet into Han, L through the giant, only for said target to burst into steam again. Damn it, where'd he go? Asked Jiraiya. Jiraiya-chan, I can sense some strong chakras just a little that way, said Fukasaku, pointing off in the direction towards Naruto. Said Jiraiya before he was off. Ha ha, that Namikaze brat is probably by now, laughed Baku, who was barely pulling himself out of the forest. He had honestly seen better days with splinters of wood sticking out of him and portions, and from the looks of things, one of his legs was definitely broken. You'd better pray that he's not oral, growled Jiraiya. Or you'll what, Kami? Please, the only thing I can do right now is to ensure us as well. Shouted Baku. What the hell are you doing, you idiot? Screamed Yurei from the next clearing over as he realized what Baku was talking about. Bakuten, kamikaze explosion. Baku's body began to glow as he activated his final jutsu and Yurei struggled desperately against his binding seal to free himself, but to no avail. Within seconds, Baku detonated and a massive explosion engulfing the entire area Jiraiya and Yurei were standing in, leaving only a crater behind. As the dust settled, nothing was left. But then a cloud of smoke appeared on the edge of the crater and Jiraiya appeared with Fukasaku sitting on his shoulder still and Shima down to his side. It's a good thing you got off when you did, Ma, said Fukasaku. Oh, I just wanted to enjoy that steam a little more. I figured you boys could handle things without me, said Shima. The female toad sage had dismounted from Jiraiya's shoulder when Jiraiya had begun to engage Han. Coincidentally, this worked in Jiraiya and Fukasaku's favor as it provided them with a way to return to the battlefield after Fukasaku reverse summoned himself and Jiraiya to mount Myoboku just in time to avoid the blast. While Jiraiya was glad he had gotten out of the blast in time, he was not happy about losing Han. And his worries only increased dramatically as he felt the ground beneath his feet shake, a cry ring through the air, and a massive explosion of chakra. When Jiraiya managed to see the cause of all 3 of those events, he immediately realized that the rumors were true. Nearly a kilometer away from where Jiraiya currently was, at the approximate location of where he left Naruto, stood the towering figure of the Gobi. However, the Biju had its sights set on a target other than Jiraiya, perhaps it preferred foxes over toads. I see why you were so worried now, Jiraiya-chan. This could be troubling indeed, said Fukasaku. Naruto's mindscape. Kurama really wasn't happy at this point in time. He was so close to getting the blasted cage removed and then the Yondaime, of all people, had to stop Naruto from releasing the seal. It's not like he was going to take over Naruto's body as his own. I mean, sure, there might be a time or two that he would take over Naruto's body, especially when he wanted something to eat besides ramen, but he would give control back. Then again, he couldn't really blame anyone. Not even he knew about this final failsafe, and the assurance that he would be freed upon Naruto's eventual death was rather comforting. As for Naruto, this was the first time he ever met his father, and he honestly couldn't blame Naruto for wanting to spend as much time with his father as possible, since it seemed like the Yondaime would only be around for a little longer. Still, he was worried that they were taking too long, as it had already seemed like a few hours, and he was certain those Iwa shinobi would be upon the pair of Konoha ninja any moment now. However, the surprises didn't end with the Yondaime. It's been a while, Kurama. Upon hearing that voice, Kurama's head immediately perked up and he gazed upon the figure standing in front of him. Said figure was wearing a long coat with a high collar, had spiked hair that almost resembled horns, but the most striking feature was the pair of rippled eyes. No, it can't be. And you really thought Minato-chan was the only chakra in here alongside you? Called out the figure. But there's no way the Yondaime could have sealed you in here, said Kurama. No, you're right. The Yondaime Hokage didn't seal me within Naruto. I sealed a part of myself within you a long time ago, said the figure. Do you remember the words I said to you, your brothers, and your sisters back when you yourself were just a young kid? Flashback. Shukaku, Matatabi, Isapu, Son Goku, Kokuo, Saiken, Shumei, Gyuki, Kurama, even if you are separated now, you will always be together. Every one of you has a name, and you each have a different form from before. Differently from when you were inside of me, I want you all to follow a rightful path and search for what true strength is. End flashback. I do, replied Kurama. And I am happy to see that you've found the correct path, said the figure. You had many chances to give in to the hatred that has been building up inside of you for so long, and yet when the time came, you put that aside and saw fit to help the young one who would need your help to face the approaching storm. At this time, the figure took a seat up top Kurama's head, between the fox's ears. I tried, Kurama, and for a time I succeeded. However, peace is but temporary unless someone is there to maintain it, else the darkness and hatred finds a way back. The peace I created long ago has since them all but disappeared, and the time is approaching for the next generation to restore that peace and perhaps finds a way to keep it from disappearing. Even now, hatred is pitting you against your very brother. It truly is a disgusting enemy that spreads like the plague. I'm sad to say that even my own kin has succumbed to it, and those struggling to fight it are having to face the hardships associated with it. I'm sure you can attest to that. I'd like to be able to apologize and make up for all the strife my descendants have caused you, but sadly I can only help but to ask one last thing out of you. You know I don't blame you, and if there's anything you want, you only have to ask, replied Kurama. I'm glad to hear that your mind is still open, Kurama. This world is once again about to be overtaken by a horrendous amount of hatred. Some have already succumbed to the hatred, even some of your own brethren. However, wherever there is darkness, there is always light, no matter how faint that glimmer of light may be. This child, whom you are sealed in, will play an important role in the battle for peace, and I want you to help guide him along his destined path. Likewise, I would also like you to try and help your brothers and sisters who have already given in to the hatred. It's still not too late to save them, and I feel as if you're going to need all the help you can get when the time comes. It was then that the ripple-eyed man looked off into space before speaking. Sadly, it appears as if our time together is over. I just want you to know that I'm proud with how you've turned out. Perhaps someday, we will meet again and you can share with me the stories of your time together with this child. It was at this point that the ripple-eyed man began to fade as his chakra ran out, but not before saying a few last words. You know, I only just realized, but this place smells a lot like ramen. Such a delectable and heavenly food, ramen is. Goodbye for now, old man. Perhaps the day will come when I decide to join you, but even I know there are too many things that need to be done here. And don't worry, I'll see to it that the kid lives up to what he was made for. Kurama just sat there for a few moments, contemplating everything his father figure had said to him. This day truly was full of surprises, and they didn't stop when Naruto appeared back in the level of subconscious that he was in, accompanied not only by his father, but also. See, I knew it all along, you were a big softy inside, said another familiar voice. Uzumaki Kushina. I'd say I was surprised to see you, but after today, nothing can surprise me anymore, said Kurama. Kushina's attention was drawn to herself and Minato as she saw that they were both beginning to fade. Kaken. Touchin? Asked Naruto, wondering what was going on. I'm sorry Naruto, but it looks like our time is up, said Minato. What? But you guys can't go to bio, exclaimed Naruto. I've still got so much more to tell you and I have to introduce you Hinata-chan and all my friends. And we don't want to go either Naruto. We've missed out on so much of your life already and it pains me that we're going to miss the rest. Kushina began to tear up. But these precious few moments where we got the chance to meet you were worth more than anything the world could ever give us. Kaken, said Naruto as he began to tear up as well and he hugged his mother. As their hug broke, Minato placed his fading hand on Naruto's head. No matter what happens, remember that your mother and I will always be proud of you. And I know that someday, you'll make a fine Hokage. You really think I will be Hokage? Asked Naruto. Minato just smiled at Naruto. Of course, I am your father. It is a parent's job to have absolute faith in their child after all, said Minato. It's our time to go now Naruto, we'll see you one day on the other side. But please, try not to hurry, said Kushina as she turned to the Kyuubi. I can't believe I'm saying this, but thank you for taking care of Naruto for us, you big furball. PFT, I've only been doing it out of self-interest. If he S, I S and trust me, if it wasn't for me he'd be S already. This kid's as thick-headed as you were, replied Kurama, trying to make it so he didn't look too soft. Hey, watch who you're talking to you overgrown ball of fur, to Bane. Still Kushina didn't seem convinced that what Kurama said was really how he felt, and she was right even if Kurama was never going to admit it to her. With a few final words, Minato and Kushina faded, their chakra running out. Naruto. I know, said Naruto as he prepared to release the seal, although he never got the chance as he was forced out of his own mindscape. Naruto was forced to jump off the comfy rock he had been sitting on for what had actually turned out to be a few hours as a steam-enhanced punch shattered the rock and sent Naruto flying back. The blonde Jinchuriki was now faced with the giant otherwise known as Han of the steam armor. So this is the Gobi Jinchuriki Ero Sennin was talking about, thought Naruto. He certainly is big. Naruto deactivated the gravity seals on his limbs, knowing he couldn't afford any sort of restriction in this fight. So you're the Namikaze brat that old fools are afraid of, said Han. You honestly don't look like much of a threat. Yeah, let's see if you're saying the same after you see what I can do, said Naruto. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Immediately, dozens of Naruto clones popped into existence but Han seemed unfazed. The clones pulled kunai and charged Han, using the speed and agility Naruto had gained over the past year and a half. Had this have been another opponent, they would have overwhelmed him, but Han wasn't just any other opponent. The clones were able to land a few hits on Han, but his armor proved too near impossible for their ordinary attacks to break through, giving Han an opportunity to attack and dispel the clones. Damn it, normal attacks aren't going to work against that armor. Let's see, I could always try that. Besides, if he's Jinchuriki the last thing I want is for him to tap into his Bijuu's power, thought Naruto. Futon, Heaven's Hammer. Han waited for a second for the jutsu to come, but when he quickly saw that Naruto had given him an opening, he took a step forward, intending to charge the blonde. It was then that it hit him, the massive column of highly pressurized air that Naruto had summoned from up within the atmosphere down upon Han, forcing the giant to his knees. Channeling more chakra into the jutsu, Naruto increased the pressure and forced Han to his hands, struggling to keep himself up. Naruto made a motion to a few of his clones to take the tagged kunai in his pouch that he kept around for suppression seals, and just as the clones were about to plant the tags. Ninpo, pressure cooker. A massive explosion of pressurized steam that had built up within Han's armor erupted all around the armor-clad Jinchuriki. The outward pressure was strong enough to completely force back Naruto's jutsu and allow Han to escape before Naruto even had a chance to start the suppression seals. Based on the preliminary reports that Iwa's intelligence network had gathered from, Han was already aware of this child's Uzumaki heritage and his ability to utilize Fuinjutsu to a high degree. There was no way he was going to let Naruto capture him in one of those seals of his. Damn it, I should have had him there, swore Naruto. Okay, I'll admit there's something to you, maybe, said Han. But it's going to take more than just a slight change in air pressure to take me down. Han pointed his arms forward towards Naruto and begun to pressurize steam around them. Ninpo, steam cannon. Naruto jumped out of the way of the incoming attack just in time to avoid being hit by Han's attack. I think it's about time to put that to the test, thought Naruto as he drew Arashi and Han fired another round. Mifune-sensei said to channel some chakra into it and activate the seals, then all I have to do is activate the seals again to fire the attack. Following Mifune's instructions, Naruto channeled some chakra and drove the blade head-on into Han's attack with the seals active. Han just grinned as it looked like Naruto wasn't going to dodge this attack, but his grin was wiped off his face when his attack just swirled slightly and looked as if it was sucked into the sword that Naruto had drawn. What surprised him more was when the very attack he had just fired at Naruto was sent sailing back towards him. Hey, that got you, commented Naruto as the steam attack connected with Han. But when the scene cleared, Han just stood there as if nothing had happened. So that's the sword that Roshi talked about in his older stories. The Azumaku Shio no Ken, that blade was thought to be lost, thought Han. That's an interesting sword you have there, but my own attacks won't harm me. Damn it, I should have known. Had that have been most other jutsu, that would have gotten him, but he's practically surrounded by steam all the time, there's no way steam would harm him, thought Naruto. Fine, looks like I'm just going to have to go about it this way then. A white glow appeared around the sword as Naruto channeled his own wind chakra into Arashi. If that armor of yours is going to be such a problem, then I'll just have to see it off. As soon as Naruto is off, Han was already backpedaling, trying to keep out of range of Naruto's sword. The brat's strikes are fast and destabilizing, always forcing you to stay on your toes and not giving you a moment to relax. It's not really a surprise considering who he was trained by, thought Han. Naruto then jumped back, giving Han some much relieved time to catch his breath, but not before Naruto grinned and the armor covering Han's left arm shattered and spilled from a deep G along his forearm. How? I thought I was just out of your reach, said Han, but then he looked at Naruto's sword and saw a faint chakra glow surrounding it, making the sword look a few inches longer than it should be. I see, so the brat's actually a strong wind user. Fine, I can't afford to play around anymore. Kokuo. Naruto was about to make his next move, but felt a massive burst of chakra emanate from Han and a massive cloud of steam begin to swirl around him as it increased in size. Naruto was forced to stumble back a few steps when the giant figure of the Gobi erupted from the cloud of steam. Naruto. It's the only way I can help you out. Now, release this blasted seal and let's show him our power. Right, let's go Kurama. On the outside, Naruto revealed the seal on his right hand and Han could only watch as Naruto the seal into his own stomach before giving it a small twist and another massive burst of chakra erupted, only from the blonde this time. Naruto felt the power flowing through him, the full force of Kurama's power. It was unlike anything he had felt before and even the four-tailed form paled in comparison to this. At first, the massive rush of power felt like it was going to tear Naruto apart, but its wild fury was soon contained, until it all exploded at once. As Han looked onto what was going on, where once stood his target now stood the menacing figure of the Kyubi no Kitsune. Jutsu. Bakutan out of explosion release, bloodline, a chakra nature type bloodline. The components of this chakra are unknown, however it is believed to be earth-based as lightning can negate the explosive powers of this Kekkei Genkai. This Kekkei Genkai allows the user to utilize chakra to create explosions. Uses, Baku clan, Awout Ofukatsuki. Note, Deidara Isout was a member of this clan. It should also be known that the Baku clan does make up a Wagakure's explosion core. Ghost Body, Bloodline, while it may sound a lot like Dan Kato's abilities or even Tobito's, yes, Tobi plus Obito equals Tobito, this bloodline is different. For one, unlike Dan's ability which releases his own soul from his body, the entire body becomes intangible. Also, this is not a space-time jutsu like Tobito's as it does not send a portion of the user's body to another dimension. This bloodline allows for two main abilities, invisibility and intangibility. Uses, Urei clan, Iwa. Fuinjutsu, ensnaring seal, a sealing jutsu that ensnares anyone caught within its area. Uses, Jiraiya, rank A. Senpo, demonic binding seal, a senjutsu enhanced seal that binds anyone that it comes into contact with. This seal has the power to bind even those with the ghost body bloodline and prevents them from going intangible. Rank S. Uses Jiraiya. Summoning Jutsu, Wolf's Den, an advanced summoning jutsu of the Okami clan of Iwa that summons an entire pack of large wolves to the summoner's command. Rank A. Uses Okami Kenta. Bakuten, kamikaze explosion, AS jutsu used by the Baku clan to destroy their enemies with them in one final explosion. It should be noted that this is not the same as Deidara's C0 explosion. Deidara's attacks are different and much more powerful due to him stealing forbidden jutsus, hence why he's an S-rank criminal. Rank A. Uses Baku clan. Ninpo, pressure cooker, a steam-based attack where Han builds up steam pressure throughout his armor and releases it all at once. The force behind the explosion is even strong enough to beat Naruto's Heaven's Hammer. Rank A+, uses Han. Ninpo, steam cannon, a steam-based ninjutsu where Han builds up a massive steam pressure in the gauntlets of his armor and fires a highly pressurized blast of scalding steam towards his opponent. Rank A. Uses Han. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.